Hi, I'm Mark Murnane from Murnane Legal. I'm about to appear on Prosper's online show. We're going to be talking about your business and how you can get some planning in place if something is to happen to you, if you're to pass away or get sick and incapacitated and unable to run your business. See you soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, where we uncover the secrets of success and the stories behind them. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we have a guest whose journey is as fascinating as is inspiring. Get ready for laughter, insights, and a touch of legal wisdom, because today's episode promises to be a blockbuster. Now, Mark, how are you doing, my man?
I'm very well, thanks, Prosper. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. I can't wait for what we're about to dive into, because you literally are going to save a lot of people's businesses before they've even gotten started. And I like that about what you've got on the table. So for those that are meeting Mark for the very first time, he works predominantly with custom wills and estate planning that actually fits around you. So a lot of us are working far too hard to build these businesses, but we haven't created any exit strategies or any succession plans. And part of what we'll be talking about today has got to do with that. Now, Mark, I'm not the person that's legally obligated to talk about any of this stuff. You could maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey becoming the owner and principal of Murnane Legal.
Thanks, Prosper. Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. When I show my resume to people, it's very unique. And to become a lawyer wasn't necessarily planned. I'm from the Western District, sixth generation dairy farmer. And the expectation was that I was going to be a dairy farmer for my whole life. And I left school at 15, happily on the farm. And then we probably had a series of events, the family, where I started to reassess whether I wanted to be a farmer anymore. So in my early 20s, my dad got a brain tumor and I got type 1 diabetes all at the same time. And fortunately for my father, he went to see Charlie Teo, the famous neurosurgeon in Sydney, and Charlie removed and saved Dad's life, essentially removed the tumor. So Dad was all well and good. Then not long after, I had an auntie pass away. And then I guess I started to reflect on what I wanted to get out of life, whether it was going to be a dairy farmer forever. And so essentially at the ripe old age of 35, I decided I'd go back to university. So it was 20 years between classes. I had a little bit of difficulty because I didn't finish my VCE, year 12, as it's called, or VCE here in Victoria. So yeah, back to uni, did an undergrad through Griffith online, and then did the Monash University Juris Doctor. And then when I graduated, I moved to a small law firm in Camberwell, and then ended up in a city law firm that was in the area of property, and then moved into the wills and estate space soon after. And I've been in that area now for nearly 4 years now, and it's been great. I really enjoy the estate planning area. And how I really got into the estate planning area was, and I've always been interested in it, was essentially growing up in a small town. Quite often you would see families in dispute over their farms. You'd have usually a son who's gone home on the farm and hasn't been paid, and then the other family members who have gone off, maybe left out of the will, and so there'd be a dispute. And I'd always had an interest in estate planning, what it was, and how you can solve these disputes. And essentially that's how I ended up in estate planning. And then at the beginning of last year, I started my own business, estate planning. And the whole idea of this business was essentially to help business owners and families get their estate planning sorted and be flexible with my timing. Because as we all know, families, especially families with children and businesses, don't have a lot of spare time. So I do a lot of meetings out of hours, and I meet my clients at home a lot of the time, and it works well. You get to meet your clients in their natural habitat. They're a lot more comfortable than what they would be if they come to see me in an office.
Fantastic, because and congratulations on obviously the career switch and now being successful in the field, because so many people would have just been attached to who they think or thought they would have been just based on what they would have started off as. So, and also starting university at like 35 and things of that nature, it's just a remarkable feat in and of itself, because other people would have been like, yeah, that's it. This is my life. I'm done. So good on you for making that switch. Now, you did mention you were sixth generation farmer. So you literally cut that uh tradition then, with the family. Was that something that was looked upon as is that okay, or family tried to bring you back because then you had to perpetuate the journey?
Um, it was very fortunate how it all happened. I was on the farm with my brother, and he was looking for a career change. He left school at 14. He's 8 years younger than me. He went off and became an electrician, and started up his own successful business with a childcare centre. But fortunately, my sister was looking to get onto a farm. She'd leased farms with her partner and children, and so they've ended up with the family farm. So we stay on the farm when we go back for Christmas. My parents live nearby, so it's all worked out well. We're a very close knit family. Probably all the sicknesses and illnesses have brought us all closer together. I've got another sister who lives in Newcastle. But yeah, the sister that's on the farm, amazingly, in 2015, she had a brain tumor completely different to my dad's, and Charlie Teo operated on her and saved her life as well. So all of those, I guess, left field things that you don't expect sometimes brings your family closer together. So we're very supportive of each other, and we stay in touch, yeah, quite regularly.
Absolutely. And for those that have never really known what a dairy farm looks like, because some people just think milk comes out of a carton, could you maybe give us a highlight of what was, a typical day for you? It doesn't necessarily have to be chronological, but what are the sort of things that you were and supposed to be doing on your day-to-day endeavors?
On a dairy farm, you've got to milk your cows twice a day. So twice a day, usually early in the morning. Most farmers start at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then at the end of the day. So in between, what you do there is very seasonal. Seasonal. So if you've got cows calving, you'll have to raise calves. If it's harvesting season, usually in the spring, you cut hay, and then in the summer, you're irrigating, you're watering the grass. So when it dries off. So it's very varied throughout the season. But during the years, it becomes sort of repetitive. So you get very efficient at how everything's done. I learned a lot of transferable skills from the dairy farm, from the business side of things, to running a law firm. Essentially, it's on a farm, you learn about the things that you can't control, so you don't worry about those. Same with the law firm. You have a quiet week with clients coming in, you keep doing the basics, what you're doing, what's succeeded previously, it'll eventually turn around. Dairy farmers are very resilient. From what I've learned, my time on the dairy farm, I think a dairy farmer could run any kind of business, because you're dealing with banks. When things get tight, you need to ask for your overdraft to get extended. In the good years, you're putting away for the bad years. There's a lot of transferable skills, so it certainly set me up very well.
Absolutely, I can imagine, because obviously with all the nurturing that you have to be doing in business, you got to nurture your clients, you got to nurture the actual product up until it then starts producing milk, so to speak, and cows apparently need to be in a good sort of environment for them to be actually productive. And if you're going to be doing it twice a day, there's a lot of calm, and sort of activities that you need to do for them to actually be able to release. And like you say, there's a lot of resilience, because yeah, you're dealing with animals and they are unpredictable. So I can only imagine now that you're waking up in the morning, it's not as hectic as it is, because you've literally created a business that actually works around you. So tell us a little bit about the transition that you now then made, because you obviously went from the farm to the university, and then from there you worked in two law firms, and then you then went on to start your own business. What was it like now working for somebody else that wasn't your dad?
Oh, good question. It was very difficult. Working from my parents, they were very hands off, even when I was 15 or 16. So from an early age, my parents would take me off to see the lawyer, off to see the bank managers. They were always, same with my siblings. There was always that involvement. And I found it very difficult having a boss where you had none of those controls with your business, essentially. I just love fine tuning things with your business, making little changes that can make it efficient. And I found it hard. I probably felt like a battery hand in some ways, where you're sort of stuck in there. For the first 2 or 3 years, though, I can see why it has to happen as a lawyer, where you've got to find your feet, learn how to deal with clients. It's a hard first 2 or 3 years as a lawyer. You haven't really found your own identity. You can't. Essentially, you're getting your wings clipped a bit, and that was probably a good thing for me. I'd spent my life not really having my wings clipped. Good for the ego. It had that dented a bit, and that's probably what I needed. But it was good. But I had some good bosses, and one thing you probably don't realise to the outside world is, if you're paying your $400 to $600 for a law partner, maybe $700 or $800 for a law partner, that's a lot of money to spend. But I had that front row seat to learn from them, and it wasn't costing me a cent. And I was working in some amazing areas of law, commercial leases, probably areas I'll never practice in again, but it's given me a great foundation to understand all the different areas of law. I had some great mentors, and it's really set me up with my law firm as a business as well as a lawyer. So it's been good. But the transition, yes, from the farm to my own business, going back to uni had its challenges too, because there's 20 years between being in a classroom to going back to uni and learning again. But the difference this time was I wanted to learn. I was keen and I was an eager student. School was never difficult to me. In fact, it was probably more of an opportunity for me to run a few stand-up comedy routines, or I thought I was funny anyway. But it wasn't hard. So when I left and went on the farm, I did that for 20 years, and essentially things disappear, like even just handwriting. You don't have to write things. So when you're taking notes in class, that was hard. Listening to someone speak for hours on end, even that was difficult for me. So the first probably 12 months of study was difficult. Even just sitting exams, preparing for them, little things like that were very difficult because I hadn't done that for so long. But I got through it. I stuck at it, and having a bit of age and wisdom on your side was very helpful. If you didn't get the exam result you wanted, you learned to persist and be a bit more resilient. Yeah, and then when I got through, finding a job wasn't the easiest. It probably took me 6 months after I was admitted to find a job. I was doing little bits and pieces here and there, not necessarily in law, but I was lucky that a law firm took a punt on me. I was a bit older. They were doing compulsory acquisition work. So I'm not sure if you've ever seen the movie The Castle or The Castle. It was pretty much that kind of work where maybe a farmer might have his land acquired for a new power line going through their property. So we'd run the case then for them to get the maximum compensation. To be honest, it wasn't an area of law I enjoyed, but I did it to get the 2 or 3 years under my belt. And eventually when I got to estate planning, that's when I felt like I found my feet, got into a rhythm as a lawyer, and really, really enjoyed it. And then, as I said earlier, as I started last year, I decided to start my own law firm. The law firm has essentially been designed not only to suit my clients, their needs and their wants, but also to suit me, where I can get the best out of myself, because I can identify my weaknesses, and I know what my weaknesses are. That's marketing. But fortunately for me, my partner, Madeline, she's got a media background, and her sister has also been a copywriter. So I've had not really had to do much in regards to marketing. They've pretty much done that. Film videos. I've hated every minute of that, filming videos, but my partner, Madeline's very patient. She's coached me fantastically. And they've got to a point now where I'm happy with them. I hated the first few. But it's like anything in life. Your first anything's always the worst. The first video was terrible. I think it's still on my Instagram account, but I'd love to take it off. But yeah, that's how we've sort of got to the point. And yeah, the firm has probably established itself a bit quicker than I expected. Word of mouth is your best marketing tool. If you do a good job for your customers or clients in any business, they'll tell someone else, and that's the best referral. So here we are now, Prosper. That's pretty
Absolutely.
much it. If people haven't gone to sleep yet.
No, not at all. We're only just getting started. And obviously your online presence, now that you've said somebody else is looking after it, I was beginning to wonder because you really are outshining a lot of other legal firms out there, because I think at the core, you are not a traditional sort of law firm, because some people that then go in there, they're sort of legal, career lawyers, you know what I mean? They would have started like right from the get-go, but you've always been a people's person. You've been in a small sort of town. You've seen exactly how people need to be treated, and you understand that, people might need extra time or to be seen in the comfort of their own home, like you mentioned earlier on, in their habitat. And I like that about Murnane Legal, because it sets you guys apart from all the other traditional law firms. Now, how do you then manage to offer these Zoom appointments and meet clients outside their regular business hours, in a way that is very conducive to them, yet other people cannot do the same?
It just depends on what the client wants. It really is. Every client is different. They have different wants and needs. When they're coming to you from different channels like Instagram, Facebook messaging, emails, telephone, website, it's different, and you sort of tailor it to suit the client's needs. Essentially, I try to do what's called a discovery call, where I call the client and speak to them what they want. Figure out what they want, and whether I can help them. Sometimes we may not be suitable for each other. Okay, so very rarely that happens, but we take it from there then. When are you ready for a Zoom conference? Do you need more time to think about if you're going to go ahead with me? So I'm very much what the client wants. Meet their needs within reason, okay? Getting back to law firms where the marketing's different, one thing I will say is, as a lawyer, when you go through university, you're trained to see liability everywhere. Everything's worst case scenario. And that's how I see things too when we're doing estate planning. You see the worst case scenario. What happens if your whole family dies? What happens if you get sick? It's all that kind of mentality in the law. That's how you see it. It's a very risk-averse industry. No one's too keen to get out of that line of sheep and go out and do a bit of different marketing. And to a certain degree, you need to be careful too on how you do that marketing. You can't be giving advice. So yes, you need to be careful. And to another certain extent is lawyers are busy. They don't need to be doing a heck of a lot of marketing. We can get swamped in work pretty quickly because beyond 5 years of experience as a lawyer, there's not too many of us. There's a lot of burnout in the legal industry, and I'm well aware of that. So yeah, they don't need to market too heavily, to be honest. They're most suburban firms are busy. The biggest problem a lot of law firms have, especially in estate planning or just the area of succession law and estates and family law, is getting enough lawyers to do the grunt work with 5 years experience. So that's pretty much why you don't see a lot of clever marketing from law firms.
But I quite like what Murnane Legal has been doing, especially in your social media, where you've gone on and tackled frequently asked legal questions, just to sort of get people started. Because I viscerally believe that a lot of people are very afraid of calling a lawyer, just predicated on the fact that as soon as they pick up the phone, they're already being charged. So if you've already sort of answered a few of the legal questions, it now gives the person or the prospect or the client some sort of ammunition to then show up, so that they're not asking all these questions that they could have known, and make it easier for themselves. Now, how do you maybe manage to simplify these legal concepts for everyday people without, like you said, giving away the farm or giving away sort of advice. And I quite like what you guys are doing, by the way.
Oh, thanks, Prosper. I guess where the point of difference for me is, and it's one thing I've noticed with lawyers who go into the law later on in life after having another career, is you've sat at the other side of the desk and understand what the client is going through. It's very intimidating for people off the street to come into a law firm. You go into the reception, you've booked an appointment for, say, 11 o'clock. The lawyer's 15 minutes late for whatever. You're sitting there, you might be a bit anxious. You come in, the clock's running. You might be worried that the lawyer's going to charge on time. So you don't want to be talking about the weather or anything like that. You're nervous, you're anxious, you want to get all your questions out, get them answered as quickly and get out the door. That's how it pretty much works. I've been there and experienced that. So I understand that there's all that nervousness and fear of the law, and I get it. But in the area of estate law and succession planning, most of the lawyers are good. They're down-to-earth people. We're dealing with death or speaking about death a lot. So my colleagues in the area, for the vast majority, we're all good, honest, solid, solid people. We're certainly not like suits. We're not generally not motivated by money. It's we've got bills and we've got to pay all that. But working in the death space, you are hit with reality a lot. So why the videos are done is, I guess, just to give a little bit back and just help people, with the really basic, easy questions. Everyone's going to have the same answers. It's not specific. Like, what is probate? Well, 99% of the population would not know what probate is, and essentially it's proving the last will at the Supreme Court of the person who's just died. So the executors do that. So that's it in a simple thing. So little easy things like that is helpful. And I think it's good that people understand all the things about, succession law and estate planning, because it's an expensive exercise if you get it wrong. Okay. It's expensive for your family and your loved ones. So it's best to be proactive than reactive, and you can save a lot of money, because if there's disputes on the other side when someone dies, there's not one lawyer acting, there's two. There's one on either side, or there could be three or four. So they're charging $600-700 an hour, times that by 2 or 3. A lot of the estate planning lawyers are all fixed fees, so you know what you're going to be up for before you start. So that's pretty much how it works, Prosper.
Absolutely. And the fact that you actually sell peace of mind, and I like how you made it very simple for people to engage and start talking to you, and how you go to them in their own environment. It's just really creating a calm setup for something that is very, very important. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, succession planning. All right. I know we've been skirting around it all this time because, we got to wait for the big one. Good things come to those that can wait 4 to 5 minutes. But it is a crucial aspect for business owners, succession planning. First of all, maybe to those at the back of the room that haven't actually come across this, why is it important, and what sort of advice would you give those who haven't considered it yet?
So just to be clear, there's 2 areas we're sort of talking about with the succession law. So firstly, there's your personal matters, and then secondly, your business. So if you've got a business, your own business, it could be structured in a number of different ways. So firstly, you might have it in a company, or you might have a trust set up and run your business in the trust, or you might be a sole business owner in your name, or you might have a partnership with your spouse or husband or wife. So there's 2 proprietors of the business. So what would happen if someone gets sick or dies? That is one thing that people don't turn their mind to. Okay. And if they do turn their mind to it, in the early stages of setting up a business, I get it. Everyone's short of funds. If they have turned their mind to it, they don't want to spend the money because they think it could be quite a lot of money. However, it can be quite simple to set up. Okay. Get your affairs in order, some estate planning or succession planning for your business. So if you've got a company and it's a family company with 2 spouses, maybe the children are working in it, it's quite simple to set up a succession plan. It's not difficult. So what lawyers are really doing in the estate planning space is someone's coming to us with a problem. The problem is, what happens if someone gets sick or loses capacity to run the business? Now, it's our job then to offer some solutions to you, and then it's your job as a business owner to choose the solution. So there's a number of ways we can do this through insurances. Maybe you're in a business with someone that's not a family member. We can arrange share buyback plans or agreements. What we can have also, if there's a corporation involved, we can have corporate powers of attorney. I don't want to overwhelm everyone with all the options and alternatives, but if you get this wrong, and I don't want to scare people, but if you get it wrong, it can be a costly exercise. And I've dealt with people who have had nothing in place. Someone's died, there's been no will in place. Businesses have been run into the ground in the matter of weeks because there's been no plan. Wages can't get paid. Banks aren't getting paid. People don't know how the business is run. They just don't have the basic understanding of how to run a business. So if you have all of those appointments in place, ready to go, when someone gets sick, it's not something you have to turn your mind to, because if you run a business with your partner or spouse, I can nearly guarantee that you're both going to be concentrating on either getting yourself right if you're sick or incapacitated, or if you're past, the surviving spouse or partner is not going to be too worried about the business. They're going to be in grief. So if you have all of this sorted before the catastrophic event, I suppose, of a death, it's going to be one less thing you have to worry about. That's the first thing. And the second thing is the value of your business is not going to be run into the ground by trying to get, I guess, putting the toothpaste back in the tube, by employees leaving, bills not being paid. Sort it out now before something goes wrong, in short.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just given the daily routine that you mentioned, like you said, cows get milked twice a day. There's certain things that need to be done seasonally, and if those things don't happen, you've got livestock that's on there, and if it's not well looked after, then that's the demise of that business that, like in your instance, 6 generations have been building. And if it just takes something to happen, and especially these days where the cars are getting faster, anything can happen. It doesn't necessarily have to be sickness or things of that nature. It actually has to be something that needs to be done for the succession of the business. And it does take a while for businesses to actually start thriving. You know what I mean? It takes, like, for, let's say you're a winery or you're a whiskey producer, for you to actually have a good brand, it takes years and years for people to actually then enjoy your vintage. And sometimes you might not be able to see it through, and things of that sort of nature. So you've dedicated yourself to educating clients about, obviously, the importance of proper estate planning and things like that. And thank you so much for the service that you're doing, because so many people just think, she'll be all right, mate. Is this something that is available Australia-wide, or do you have specific places or jurisdictions that, as a legal person, you're allowed to operate in?
So effectively, estate law is state-based. So the jurisdiction is each state, but essentially most of the laws are the same. Okay, so if you run through a corporation and you want to appoint a corporate power of attorney, it's a federal law. Okay, it's a Commonwealth law. So there are little nuances like that. But for a business under $10 million, I would suggest any lawyer who practices regularly in estate planning could help them out. Someone on the corner with a suburban law firm could help you out. A CBD law firm probably for a bit over $10 to $20 million. But yeah, people like me practicing in the area all day, every day, get pretty good at it when you're focusing on one area of law. So essentially the basics are the same. It just depends on what complications the business has. Are there children that are ready to take over the business? If not, is there someone who can take over the running of the business until it gets sold if someone dies or gets sick? It's all kinds of things like that. So we'd work through those questions with the business owner and get an understanding, and then provide solutions, as I said. So yes, any good lawyer who practices in the area of estate planning would be able to help you out with your business planning. Now, for your personal stuff, so if you don't have a business and you're watching this, I see a lot of online wills and all that now, but the one thing you need to understand is with those online wills, and I'm an estate planning lawyer and I get it, but I've also had to get probate for a lot of these online wills, and they frighten me to the extent that no lawyer's involved and the will maker has got no legal advice. So we quite often see with these post office will kits, online wills, absolute messes left behind, okay, because they've done something silly like cut a child out of the will. It may have a disability. That's just one example. They've gifted property they do not own, okay? They haven't signed the will. They haven't dated the will. We see all these kinds of silly things get done when there's no lawyer involved. And people think they're saving money. You may be saving money, but it could cost your family and the state a heck of a lot more later on. Get a lawyer, draft a will. I don't care who it is, who the lawyer is. You need a lawyer involved. There are other issues that people don't turn their mind to when they get their online and post office wills, such as capacity. Okay, whether you've got capacity to make a will. If a lawyer is involved, they can make an assessment, and if necessary, we can get a doctor involved. Where is the original will going to be stored? If that gets lost, we're in a world of trouble, or the estate's in a world of trouble. It's going to cost you extra money to get probate sorted out. And the other thing is undue influence. Who's actually signed that will and who was there with them? Was someone pressured in to sign that will? The estate planning area is a heck of a lot more than just printing off a will off online, signing it, and then putting it in the top cupboard and hoping someone finds it when you die.
It's usually in that cupboard filled with other bags that have been used for shopping, and oh my God, this looks
exactly like... if it can be found too, Prosper, that's the other thing. So get a lawyer involved if you're making a will. You're probably worth a heck of a lot more than what you think, even if you don't have a business.
Absolutely. Now, in your practice at Murnane Legal, you actually prioritize plain language over legal jargon, which is something that I pride. I mean, not everyone is as educated as you guys are, to understand all the nuances of law and things like that. And I think it actually helps your clients navigate all these complexities of estate planning more effectively because, like you said, you're an expert in this. You're doing this on a daily basis. For people, they just write the will once and put it away, hopefully in a cool and dry place instead of in a drawer full of nails and old batteries that everybody seems to have. Where can people get maybe some sort of information, or how can people get a hold of you to actually maybe initiate this process, or just simply get educated for now while they're on their way to actually creating something that will give them peace of mind in the future?
To get educated, I guess I've got a Facebook page for Murnane Legal and Instagram. My webpage, murnanelegal.com.au. We've got some videos. I've got some thoughts I've put up there in articles that are on my webpage. So a lot of it's just trying to educate people and help people out to get a basic understanding of the area of estate planning and when someone passes, so estate administration, of how everything operates. So if anyone did want to proceed with me, the simple thing to do would be drop me a line on any of those things, send me an email or give me a call, 0439 106 816. Always happy to have a chat. And yeah, hopefully we can get your estate planning sorted out if you don't have it in place already.
Fantastic. And I'll make sure that I've got all those links in the show notes below. And I'm glad you've given us your phone number, because you're not like all the other lawyers that the minute we start calling, you're charging by them, right?
Correct. And it works a lot better when it's fixed fee. It's all open. Everyone knows what they're up for. If there are any changes, I'm very open about, we're going to have to charge a bit more. So I give it, a fee indication to start with. Everything's fixed fee. It's generally all the same price for most mum and dad kind of situations.
Fantastic. Now, I don't know, Mark, there's always that guy at the back of the room that's just like, it'll be fine. We still have got more time. You know what I mean? That's what a lot of people just think. I'm just gonna go out and live a little, don't stress me with this kind of things. What's sort of the advice you would give to that sort of mentality? Because I know there's always that should be a right mate mentality that a lot of people have, which seemingly doesn't then give them peace of mind at the end of the day.
I guess everyone thinks something bad's going to happen to someone else and not themselves. Okay. We're always a chance of passing away, crossing streets. You don't know when you're driving out in country roads, you don't know who's coming the other way and how much they've had to drink. If you don't have your plans in place, you are potentially leaving one big mess for your family to mop up. Not only will they be grieving, then they've got to turn around and deal with plenty of uncertainty. And by not having any estate planning in place, you're increasing the chances of a family breakdown or dispute or misunderstanding. No matter how good or how well your family gets along, this could be the little uncertainty that creates one big nuclear bomb, okay, to go off. Get that in place. That's one thing. The other point I would like to make too is, Prosper, I do a little bit of work with the charities. Now, one thing people do not understand is if you wish to leave something in your estate to a charity, you need a will. If you die without a will, effectively the state writes the will for you. So if you want to leave something, so if you die without a will, it's known as dying intestate. The rules of intestacy apply. There's legislation that sets the formula about how your estate will be distributed. So essentially, it'll first in line your spouse, then your children. If your parents are still alive, then their siblings, and it works its way out. And if we can't find anyone, it ends up with the government. That's very rare. However, after all of that, the charities don't get anything if you die without a will. So about 50% of adults die without a will. It's way too many. I'd love to change that and make it a lot less. So if you are of the persuasion of wanting to leave something to a charity, if you give to a charity regularly and you think, well, you don't have family members to leave your estate to, it's a good idea to make a will, sit down with a lawyer, and a lawyer will help you leave something to the charity. It's very important that we get it right. If you're leaving something to a charity, you need to clearly identify the charity because if there's any confusion, again, the lawyers are going to win out. Okay, so a perfect example is St Vincent's Hospital and St Vinny's. There could be confusion there if you don't clearly identify which charity you want your estate's assets to go to.
That's a very valid point because so many people would have wanted to do that. And like you say, if there's no legal documentation, then that will be something that will be null and void. Do you like my...
Yeah, it won't. Yeah, the charities won't get anything. So if you've donated to a charity regularly throughout your life and you'd like to leave something to them, you can consider having a clause in your will that leaves something to them. Yeah, and as I said, get a lawyer to draft that for you.
Right. And did you say people shouldn't die in a cast? You say they shouldn't die in cast, eh?
Intestate, okay? So not interstate, but intestate, okay? It's a term for dying without a will. So, okay, sorry about that. But yeah, so the rules of intestacy apply. Each state has a different legislation that provides a formula for your estate to be carved up, okay? And another thing I need to sort of make it clear to people is if you die without a will and you've separated from someone but not divorced, the separated person could get your entire estate. So as soon as you are going through as soon as you're going through a separation, you need to start thinking about your estate planning, okay?
Wow.
And the other thing is people think is estate planning is expensive, but when you sit down and work out what you're worth, your superannuation, the life insurance inside of your superannuation, even though they don't form part of your estate, they will if you don't have what's known as binding death nominations. I've never really come across someone that's worth less than they initially thought they were at our first meeting. There's little things there that you'll have, especially your superannuation and the insurances tied up with that you haven't considered. So, yeah, my advice is anyone, well, at 18 you can make a will, but anyone that's sort of from 30 and beyond, especially when you've got children, please see a lawyer to get a will.
Oh, fantastic. It's a good thing you stopped milking cows and you started willing and dealing, because this whole thing, a lot of people will be missing out on this information. Now, given that sort of premise of you having moved from being a dairy farmer to now, looking at estates and stuff, what sort of advice would you give to yourself? Because a lot of people would not have imagined that this is the person you're going to be, all clean, nice glasses and things like that. When you showed up, didn't I say I was expecting a hat and a straw, you and some flannel and overalls and things like that? What sort of advice would you give to your younger self, especially considering the twists and turns that you've encountered and knowing what you know now about life?
The advice I would give to anyone that's young and 20 or in their 30s or whatever is, you only get one path in life. No one's treaded that path before. Where you are now, no one's had to crawl through the crap and the nonsense that you've had to get to. Be thankful that you've had to crawl through all of that crap and hard work to get where you are. And the path ahead of you, no one's going to have tread that before. So embrace that, enjoy that, and get on with living, because you only get one chance. I work in an area, as I've pointed out before, where people die, and I have come across people in hospitals dying, who are making wills to look after their friends because they're doing the right thing, well, their family and friends, they're doing the right thing by their loved ones and making a will. It's no benefit to them when they're dying. But one thing they never talk about is, oh, gee, it was great working all that extra overtime. They're very reflective. They look back on positivity. Quite often, I work with people who have developed businesses, and that's one of the things they're proud about. Is I've had my little stall at the market. I had a lady like that say that to me once, and how many great people she met through that. So everything's going to be okay, especially to young law grads out there. I don't think a young law grad will be watching this, but it's going to be tough to get to that 3 or 4 years under your belt, but it's going to be all worthwhile. Take your time, enjoy the journey. I know it's a wanky term. I hate it, but enjoy it. Get on. You're never going to have this day again. You just need to enjoy the moment. Don't be looking back or looking too far forward. Plan for the future, of course, but just enjoy and be thankful for what you've got. You don't need a hell of a lot to get through in life. You could lose it all in a minute anyway. So yeah, enjoy what you've got, essentially, Prosper.
I like that. And that's some really solid advice there. Now, just to wind this up a little bit. Okay, so you've started off as a farmer, went off and started school all over again, got yourself, your legal degree. You actually went to Europe at some point, Iceland, chasing the was it Husavik that you went to, that was inspired by the movie Eurovision. And maybe tell us a little bit about that story and what's next. What else can you expect from Murnane Legal?
Well, during COVID, my partner Madeline and I, like most people, during lockdown, there was pretty much Netflix and Dan Murphy's. I guess that was pretty much it for a lot of people during lockdowns. And one of the things that we did for enjoyment was watch Eurovision probably multiple times. And we made a promise to each other when lockdowns finish and the borders open up, we're going to go to Iceland, and in particular go to Husavik, where the movie Eurovision is set up. And it was pretty much one of those pinch me moments when we did achieve it. We got there. We didn't really know what to expect in Husavik, but it was just amazing. It's one of those things where it exceeded, our expectations. We went out and saw whales. We went to the hot saunas in Iceland. It's just an amazing place, Iceland. So essentially, yes, that was one of those moments, probably a highlight of my life, really. That trip was just great to be able to throw the shackles of COVID. It was such a stressful time for everyone, especially here in Melbourne. Our lockdowns were longer than anyone else's and just seemed like they were never going to end. It felt like an open prison in some ways. But as for the future for Murnane Legal, I just keep serving clients and giving them what they want, and providing a good service to clients, not getting too big and too overwhelmed with too many clients. I see that with lawyers happen too often, where they just keep taking on too much work, know where my expertise is and where I can add value to my clients, give them as much value as I can. And I think I can do that by helping them with their business planning, protecting their assets for their children through a testamentary trust will. Essentially, that's what it is, Prosper. How big it gets, I don't know, but that's the exciting part of having your own business. You wake up every morning with a purpose. You're never too sure what's going to happen for the day, with the day. And yeah, who knows? Strap myself to the rocket ship and see where it lands, I guess.
Fantastic. Well, before you strap yourself to that rocket ship, you need to actually start your own succession planning process, and I know a guy, if ever you need that. Just in case, you never know what happens with these rockets. All right. Well, Mark, I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call today. I mean, your life story, your experience, and your soon to become Elon Musk adventures are just a sight to marvel. So thank you so much for that glimpse into what other people really need to be working on, especially the professional will side of things and how that actually gives people peace of mind.
Thanks, Prosper. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you in the last, an hour now? It's been great.
Well, absolutely. Don't worry. You won't be. I hope I'm not going to be receiving an invoice in the mail, for the hour.
You won't. I can guarantee that. All pro bono it is, Prosper.
Thank you so much for that, because I wouldn't know where to start. I would actually have to start my succession process, because that would set me aback a great deal. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for obviously sharing your incredible journey and all these valuable insights with us today. A lot of people don't quite think of the inevitable, but it's something that we need to constantly be on the lookout for. And for those that are watching right now, if you want to revisit this episode, I know there's a lot that we threw in, and I'm happy there hasn't been that much jargon. I think it will be really, really good for you to just rewind this episode, just like Mark was rewatching the movie Eurovision, and you never know where you might end up, either at Mark's dairy farm or in his legal office. Either one of those two could be a possibility. And while you're there, do not forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show, because you never know what we're going to milk out of our guests, and if they're willing, they definitely will be giving us all their valuable tidbits that will help us create businesses that are profitable and enjoyable. Once again, Mark, thank you so much, my man. And for those that are watching, until next time, just remember that the path to prosperity is paved with knowledge and action. And especially if the action is to get yourself a professional will that will actually give you peace of mind, I think that would be the best thing you've ever done for your business. Bye for now.